5 evil stories that plague infamous orphanages. Most people have a clichéd image of an orphanage created in their minds. It's a haven for orphans who are given love, care, and protection by big-hearted individuals acting as their parents. Everything in an orphanage is good and safe, peaceful and loving. But it's not always true, as these evil stories that plague infamous orphanages prove. Number 5. St. John's Orphanage, Australia. The 2-story St. John's Orphanage in New South Wales, Australia, looks over one of the finest views in Goulburn town. But did things happening within the brick walls of the all-boys orphanage seem just as fine, too? Ran by the Sisters of Mercy and the Catholic Church from 1913 to 1978, the orphanage took in a total of more than 2,500 orphans and homeless until its closure. Although many of its former residents have vivid memories of camaraderie with their fellow orphans, vile stories also abound. Tales of rape, hunger, sufferings in the cold, and allegedly violent floggings from the head nun came about. Since its abandonment after closure, the orphanage has been the subject of vandalism and paranormal stories. Residents within the area have reported seeing shadowy figures the size of a child and apparitions of what appeared to be nuns. Others recount hair-raising experiences of hearing footsteps and infants crying in the nursery, getting touched, scratched, and shoved down the stairs when no one else was around. No wonder it's been considered one of Australia's most haunted sites. Number 4. The National Soldiers' Orphans Homestead, Gettysburg. In October 1866, the National Soldiers' Orphans Homestead opened its doors on the Gettysburg battlefield on the north foot of Cemetery Hill. Specifically created for orphaned kids after the American Civil War, the orphanage began auspiciously with only 22 children, but it became overcrowded by 1869. Things turned bad when the cruel disciplinarian Rosa J. Carmichael replaced the initial headmistress. She created a dungeon for disciplining the kids and committed horrible abuses such as forcing a girl to do menial jobs and locking her in the room afterward, hiring a teenage boy to beat and kick small children to her delight, and keeping a young boy outside the house in the bitter cold. Eventually, Rosa was arrested and sentenced, leading to the orphanage's closure, but the spirits of the hapless kids abused by Rosa remained and witnessed by people who've heard children crying, giggling, or tugging their clothes in what is now a soldier's museum. Others have seen not only the apparition of disheveled children, but also of the evil headmistress herself, Rosa Carmichael. Number 3. Holy Family Orphanage, Michigan. Today, along 600 Altamont Street in Marquette, Michigan, stands a massive housing complex, but beyond its imposing edifice is the story of the once abandoned Holy Family Orphanage that's often cited as a haunted location. The facility opened in 1915, served its last orphans in 1967, and was abandoned in 1982. It was then that ghostly occurrences were reported by people who dared to venture into the abandoned building. The chilling paranormal tales pertain to orphans who suffered abuses in the hands of the nuns who ran the orphanage. One was a girl who got lost while playing during a snowstorm and died of pneumonia. The furious nuns displayed her dead body in the lobby as an example of someone not worth emulating, and the lobby has since then been filled with children's cries decades after. Another victim was a boy who was either drowned or beaten to death and hidden by the nuns in the basement. A glowing green orb has been reportedly seen there, as well as flickering lights inside the building when darkness looms. Are they the orphans' cries for help? Number 2. Bon Secours Mother and Baby Home, Ireland. The Bon Secours Mother and Baby Home, or simply The Home, in Tuam, Ireland, was a home for unwed mothers and their babies from 1952 to 1961. Pregnant single women gave birth there, stayed afterwards to render unpaid service for the nuns, and then were forced to leave their babies. The nuns raised the toddlers until they could be adopted, often without consent. 15 years after the home closed down, 2 boys playing at the site of the facility discovered a concrete slab filled to the brim with children's skeletons. It was only between November 2016 and February 2017 when an extensive investigation was conducted and the discoveries were truly shocking. The site where bones were found in 1975 was actually the home's septic tank used as a common burial ground. Around 800 bodies of babies were found ranging from 35 weeks to 3 years old, who mostly died in the 1950s from influenza and tuberculosis. The home may not be plagued with ghost stories, but its uncovered secrets are even more hauntingly revolting. Number 1. St. Joseph's Catholic Orphanage, Vermont. The evil nuns portrayed in the movies will definitely pale in comparison with the real nuns that ran the St. Joseph's Catholic Orphanage in Burlington, Vermont from the mid-1800s to 1974. Not with their long hidden skeletons breaking out of the closet, which exposed the physical, mental, psychological, and sexual abuses they committed against many orphans, some of whom died. The horror stories told in the 1990s by some former residents of the orphanage, now grown-ups, have revealed St. Joseph's dark history. Their testimonies are gut-wrenching. The nuns tortured the children by throwing them out of the windows or kicking them down the stairs, cutting a boy's genitals after forcefully fondling him, drowning babies, or covering their mouths until they turned blue, and ordering older boys to rape a younger one. Pricking a child's fingertip with a needle, standing on a boy's leg until it broke, and burning a girl's skin were common occurrences. All these were occasionally administered as special punishments, but they leave one question begging to be answered. How could these so-called women of God commit such monstrosities to helpless kids? If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to our channel for your daily fix of awesome infotainment.